12 receptions and 180 yards against the Jets were most in a season opener in Bengals history. He's the 6th player since the merger to have at least 150 yards in a season opener. Green's touchdown over Revis was his 3rd career TD of over 50 yards. But in the NFL since he entered the league, we welcome Cincinnati Bengals star receiver A.J. Green, who joins us thanks to Rock and Refuel. A.J., thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank y'all for having me.
We appreciate it. So not a bad day in the office for you on Sunday, as we just highlighted. When did you know you'd get the better of Darrelle Revis?
I didn't know. My job was out there, just go out there and play as hard as I can and try to make plays and put my team in the best situation to win. And that's what I try to do each and every week, just go out there and win the one-on-one matchups.
You know, AJ, thanks for coming on the show, man. This is Stephen A. I got to ask you this. I mean, I'm looking at your team right now. From a talent perspective, y'all are one of the best. There's no question that y'all have the talent, and it certainly helps that they have you. However, I want to know what your focus is coming into this season compared to seasons past, considering how last year ended for y'all with that whole chaos against the Steelers in the playoffs.
For me, it starts with Andy and I, and this offense run through us. And as we go, our offense go, and that's my approach week in and week out of this year. I have to be that dog out there and make every play to put my team in the best situation to win. So that's my approach.
AJ, with this, Max Kellerman here, this era of receivers, it's kind of like the best catch anyone's ever seen is the last great one they saw. And watching you or Antonio Brown or Odell Beckham Jr. or Julio Jones, and there are others that I'm not even mentioning, that you can't imagine that someone's better than that guy when you got your eyes on him. Where do you rank among the game's best receivers?
I think I'm one of the best.
Clearly,
I
but
feel
where?
like my body of work speak. Yeah, I don't put myself wherever y'all want to put me, but I'm definitely think I'm the best. I'm not gonna say nobody's better than me, but you gotta look at the body of work. I've been doing this since I got in this league, so I don't have to showcase my talents or talk about how good I am. I just let my play do all the talking, and that's the guy who I am, and that's. Go ahead.
AJ, you certainly don't have to do that with me, bro. And I'm a Steelers fan, but you certainly don't have to do that with me. We know how legit you are. And you and I have spoken on several occasions in the past. You know my issue is not with you. My issue is with that damn team of y'all that cannot win a playoff game to save y'all lives. I want to know, what is the mentality of the Cincinnati Bengals this year, and when are y'all going to get to the point where y'all going to win a playoff game? That's what I want to know. I'm asking that week 1 because I got you here in front of me. That's what I want to know.
Right. I know you don't like us, Stephen A., but it's fine. It's fine. We're gonna prove you wrong one day. We're gonna prove you wrong, and we're gonna have this conversation again. But like I said, man, we're just taking a week at a time. And like last year, it was very heartbreaking just to go out there and lose a game like that. And the game that we thought we were the better team, and we had that game won. But this year's a new team. Like this year, Coach Lewis is always preaching, keep our poise. It's a new team, new guys, new season, and that's the approach we're taking. And me as a leader, that's what I got to enforce into our locker room.
AJ, I was really looking forward to watching you guys play with Andy Dalton in the playoffs last year, because it felt like he turned the corner, and I thought there were indications maybe he'd play well in the playoffs last year for the first time, really well up to his ability. The way he was playing in fourth quarters, better than the rest of the game, the way he was playing in primetime games, etc. Can you speak to that at all, the Andy Dalton from last year? Was there a difference from the Andy Dalton in the past?
Of course. You saw how he started the season, how we started the season. He was having an MVP season. And, just having him go out the way he went out is definitely a loss for the team when you lose one of your best guys. And being the quarterback is even harder. So, like I said, it's so good to see him back here this year, and he's healthy, and you saw what he did week 1. He got knocked down a couple times, but his poise and his presence in that pocket that we made plays when we needed to.
AJ, while you're on the air, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. I know you got to run, and I'm going to let Molly take it away, but I want you to know, I like you, I like Pac-Man. I know Montez can play. I don't like the fact that y'all keep losing in the damn playoffs. There's not a single playoff win in Marvin Lewis's coaching career here. That's what I don't like. I just want the record to be straight.
I got you. I understand, Steve. I understand. We're going to get this straight once we win this playoff game, and we're going to revisit this conversation.
Okay. I love it. AJ, now that we're good on that, we want you to weigh in on this conversation we've been having on the show today. We have a Twitter poll, and it's which is the best quarterback-wide receiver combo of all time. We want to get your thoughts on that.
All time?
All time. Anyone in history. Bring it back.
I like Randy Moss and Culpepper.
Culpepper. Okay, that's a new one. We like it. Thank you so much for the time. Best of luck this season, and we can't wait to see you. You'll be in the Steel City this weekend. Always fun. Bengals, Steelers. We'll tune in for that for sure. Coming up next, the Cardinals lost the season opener at home to a Patriots team without their starting quarterback, tight end, and a banged-up line. From the top down, the Cardinals organization is not pleased. See this behind us? Some think the sky is falling on Arizona. Team GM Steve Keim, one of them. He had strong words for the team in an interview with the Doug and Wolf Show on Arizona Sports 98.7 FM in Phoenix. Take a listen.
You wake up Monday morning with a loss, you're angry, disappointed, embarrassed, and that's the way we should all feel. Just didn't get it done, and a lot of reasons why we didn't get it done, and that needs to improve. It's certainly unacceptable. The sky is falling Monday, and that's the feel that all of us should have, and use that as a chip on our shoulder to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Do you believe in the theory that sometimes there can be a good loss?
No. Not when you're playing a backup quarterback and they're missing some playmakers, and it's a game at home.
So before week one, we made our Super Bowl pick, Stephen A. I went with the Cardinals, and now after week one, the question is, are the Cardinals still a Super Bowl contender? Your thoughts?
Well, of course they are. They have the personnel and the coaching staff to validate their Super Bowl contention aspirations. The fact is that it was a bad night. It's a very, very bad night when you consider the fact that they were playing against a backup in Jimmy Garoppolo, who didn't have their number one weapon in Rob Gronkowski outside of Tom Brady. Essentially, the New England Patriots were without their two most formidable weapons and still beat the Arizona Cardinals. But let's also keep in mind, it is game one of the NFL season. As Max accurately pointed out, the great Bill Belichick had numerous weeks to prepare for this matchup, which is not something you're going to have for a bevy of other games during the regular season. And then let's also look into their personnel. You got the Honey Badger back, okay? He's one of your safeties, all right, along with Jefferson. You got Peterson as one of your corners with Williams as another. You got Mentor and Branch in terms of the linebacker spot along with Buchanan. You got Chandler Jones and Calais Campbell on the edges. Look, that's a defense. And when you think about them offensively, Larry Fitzgerald is just showing that he's got more life. Michael Floyd and John Brown are no joke. Duke Johnson is, not Duke, but I'm saying Derek Johnson, the brother can play. We all know how formidable he can be. Their offensive line is decent, and they're fresh off of an NFC championship game. So one game doesn't make a season. We understand that it's very early. We also understand and we appreciate, I think we should appreciate what the GM's saying. He's saying you should treat it like the sky is falling. You should treat it like it was a missed opportunity. You should treat it like it was a huge, huge problem for you to find yourself in this position, because there is no doubt they came up short, underachieved, and did all of those different things. But at the end of the day, it's one game. And it's the first game of the regular season going up against the great Bill Belichick, who had the entire offseason, all summer, training camp, preseason, etc., to prepare his backup quarterback for this one game. And so when you look at it from that perspective, I don't think there's any reason to hit the panic button. But I love the fact that the GM sounded like he's willing to hit the panic button, because it shows that they have expectations that they expect to be validated. And I like that, because that's what winners are made of.
For the second consecutive season, you look at the Arizona Cardinals and you say, this is the best overall team in the NFL, both sides of the ball. Where's the weakness, really? They're really a tremendous regular season team. But the indication that they're not actually Super Bowl contenders came in the first game this year and came in the last game they played last year. Even the game before that, they just squeaked by Green Bay. I mean, Aaron Rodgers almost pulled a rabbit out of a hat, and Green Bay did not have their full complement of players. That was not the Packers that are going to exist this year, and they barely got by them in overtime, and then got thumped by the Panthers, and then got beaten by a Patriots team. Not only did they not have Tom Brady or Gronkowski, or their #1 running back in Dion Lewis, they didn't have either of their starting tackles, and the Patriots beat them because Belichick had time to prepare for them. Well, guess what happens in the playoffs? Coaches have time to prepare. They can focus on you differently than they can in the regular season, and that's what the Cardinals are going to run into again. And I'm sorry, but Carson Palmer, who was prematurely anointed. I remember, going back, 10 years now? There's Peyton and there's Brady, and here comes Carson Palmer, and it didn't exactly work out that way. And now he's had a renaissance later in his career. And yet, when the lights shone brightest, he came up short. Now, I thought Seattle was going to win the Super Bowl, and I'm still going to ride with them, but that offensive line in Week 1 may be a bigger problem than we thought. The Patriots in the AFC and the Steelers in the AFC, but the Steelers, certainly there are issues. The Panthers, you can argue, are still favorites. There are various teams. None of them are perfect. I think all of them have a better shot to win once the playoffs start, not to mention the Packers. Once the playoffs start, than the Arizona Cardinals. You need a quarterback to perform under pressure. You need a coach to be able to game plan when the other coach also has time.
Well, first of all, a couple of things. You're going to have to define, and I say this rhetorically because I got a couple of other points I'd like to make, but you're going to have to define for me what your definition of contender is. A champion is a champion. A contender is somebody who ultimately loses to the champions. So when I look at the Arizona Cardinals, yeah, you didn't make the Super Bowl, but that's because you lost in the NFC Championship game to the NFC champion Carolina Panthers. And so to me, that's the definition of contender, which is what this subject was about. Secondly, when you bring in a bevy of other teams, whether it's Pittsburgh or Cincinnati, whether it's all of these other teams, the fact is you don't have to play most. You don't have to play anybody in the AFC come playoff time unless you make it to the Super Bowl if you're Arizona. And in the NFC, we saw Seattle struggle with Miami. We saw Green Bay struggle with Jacksonville. We see the NFC East, and we don't think much about any of those teams right now. And so I think, and then, of course, we see the NFC South. Oh, yeah, you got Carolina, and we can't ignore Jameis Winston and what he's capable of doing, or Drew Brees for that matter. But there's no doubt that Arizona can compete for with those teams. So I say that to say this. And then you point out, oh, well, there's time to prepare. Well, that's not necessarily so. Because in the playoffs, there's playoff games every week, just like they are during the regular season. If you're the division winner and the #1 or #2 seed, you get a bye week to prepare in all likelihood. And if you're not one of those two teams, but you're going up against one of those two teams, they get to prepare for you, but you got to prepare for somebody else and then go week to week because you've got games every week. So when you speak to the level of time that you have to prepare, that's not accurate for the playoffs in most situations. It's accurate for the Super Bowl, but it's not accurate for the playoffs.
If Arizona wins the division outright and gets a bye, yeah.
All right, but when you ask the question for contender status, I think it's clear they're a contender. I think it's clear they'll make the playoffs, and I think it's clear that nobody can summarily dismiss Arizona because of the potency of personnel that they have and what they're capable of doing.
I would say this. Let's get to your definition of contender. I agree with you. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to win a championship, of course, but that you will contend for one, not pretend. Right now, they look like they have the personnel. There's no doubt about it. Speedy receivers, sure-handed receivers, a top-flight kind of potentially breakout running back, a quarterback who puts up big numbers, a great defense. They have the personnel, absolutely. But are they actually contenders? The Panthers thumped them in a way that tells me that's not a contender. That wasn't a close game. That wasn't tight. They squeak by Green Bay and they get thumped by the eventual NFC winners, but not the Super Bowl winners, and then follow that up with a loss to a totally depleted team. Is that a team, after the way Carson Palmer looked under the bright lights, that I believe can actually contend for a Super Bowl, or rather make the playoffs and lose to someone before the NFC Championship game? I think the latter.
There are plenty of teams. There are plenty of teams who got annihilated in an NFC Championship game over the years and were contenders. Nobody's sitting here and saying that the Arizona Cardinals should be the favorites to win the Super Bowl. But we were talking about them in preseason prognostications for a reason, because we know that they have the personnel to legitimately compete And again, when you think about a team, think about what happened in Seattle in the first half against Carolina. All right, they got ramrodded, but ultimately lost that game. Now, Arizona got destroyed, and we get that 49-15 in the NFC Championship game. They didn't show up. All I'm saying to you, however, is this. A contender is, to me, a top 4 or 5 team in the NFL. And I think Arizona is one of those teams.
Yeah,
Molly
me
thinks
too.
they're the best.
Yeah, go Bird Gang.